I now call upon Dr. S. M. Byregowda, the Director, IHNVB, to briefly give the nature of the disease, the presence, and the uh, information available in the literature in brief about this particular disease. Dr. Byregowda, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir, for giving an opportunity to share some of the information on this newly emerging disease, lumpy skin disease. So, good afternoon to all veterinarians. So now I think you are all aware of that the disease is widespread even in Karnataka and in most of the other places also. And you might have come across the disease, or you might have heard about the disease, that it is very prevalent in our country. So we all know that it is caused by a virus belonging to the pox group of genus Capripox, where sheeppox, goatpox, and lumpy skin disease are belonging to this Capripox genus. And the disease was first seen in 1929 in Africa, and it spread to the whole Africa later on, and entered into the Middle East in 1984. Even in Europe also, the disease is very new. The first report was seen in 2015, and later on it has started spreading to the other countries. And in India, we reported the first disease in 2019 in Orissa, and afterwards we have seen the disease in most of the places. And the first case in Karnataka was reported in 2020, somewhere in February, March. And after that, the disease started spreading or started reporting in most of the districts like Ramnagar, Dakshin Kannada, Bidar, Kolar, Yadgir. So in most of the places, the disease is being reported now continuously, and our scientists are going for investigating this lumpy skin disease. So this is just a map showing how the disease was concentrated in Africa, and then moved to the Middle East, and later on it moved to the Europe, and then entered into the other countries. So to know about the disease, LSD, like any other viral diseases, it's highly species specific. So it infects only cattle and buffaloes and closely related wildlife like Asian water buffaloes. Though the virus can replicate in sheep and goat when it is entered into the sheep and goat, but there is no clinical disease seen in sheep and goat. So once the virus enters into the animal, after the incubation period of it's known to like 5 days to even certain weeks also, the initial fever will be there, and virus spreads into the lymph nodes, and lymphadenopathy will be there, and develops into a large firm cutaneous nodules, maybe up to 5 centimeter in diameter, or maybe still smaller also. And this can be found all over the body, and but particularly on sparsely haired areas such as head, udder, scrotum, perineum. And sometimes when we have seen in cases, the lesions will be widespread. Throughout the body, these nodules will be there. And the nodules may become necrotic and ulcerate in advanced stages, and leading to increased risk of meiosis and maggot infestation and crust formation. And even in some cases, we have seen a red, deep ulcer type lesion in the legs of animals when we went to investigation in Kanakpura areas. And in severely affected animals, necrotic lesions can also develop in the respiratory and gastrointestinal tract. Maybe this could be the triggering point for mortality, especially in young ones. And the severity varies widely from subclinical to fatal. And why the disease is so important? The economic importance and loss due to the disease is mainly due to loss of production, like severe emaciation will be there, animal goes down, and animal slowly come down with the condition, lowered milk production, and abortion of the abortion if the animal is pregnant, secondary mastitis, loss of fertility because the lesions can be seen even in mucous membrane of the uterus, and extensive damage to the skin, so that the animal value comes down, and loss of draft from lameness. And in most of the cases we have seen the swelling in the legs and the lesions, some of the like ulcerative type lesions in legs, so that the animal will be difficult to move and the lameness is noticed. See this slide specifically I want to highlight for the benefit of the field veterinarians, the susceptibility of the virus. See this I would like to highlight here and emphasis here more is the virus can thrive in the environment and in harsh conditions for quite a long time, because it is a pox virus. It behaves like any other pox group of viruses, and it can withstand 55 degrees for 2 hours and even 65 degrees for 30 minutes. And at environmental temperatures, it can stay in the environment for quite a long period. So when we think of chemicals or disinfectants, suppose if you want to take for any sanitary measures, we can think of sodium hypochlorite and Vircan, which are easily available in all veterinary dispensaries. Although the virus is very sensitive for ether and chloroform and even 1% formalin, and detergents like sodium dodecyl sulfate SDS and even for phenol. So best thing would be to use some sodium hypochlorite or even some iodine compounds, or Vircan, which is easily available, and quaternary ammonium compounds at 0.5% for any of the like disinfectant of the areas and wherever the animal is there in the with the farmer's place. And as I was mentioning, LSDB is very stable and surviving for long periods at ambient temperatures, especially in dried scabs. And it is resistant to inactivation and surviving in necrotic skin nodules for up to 33 days or longer, and desiccated crust for up to 35 days, 18 days in air-dried hides. It can remain viable for long periods in the environment. So these are all the important things which our veterinarian should know when we think of controlling the disease or controlling the sanitary measures. The morbidity of the disease varies somewhere between 10 to 80%, and we can say that the morbidity in most of the places it is limited only. Though they say 80% in some of the like in some of the countries they have reported, but what clinically what we have seen in some of the areas where the disease has been investigated, the morbidity is very less only. Like suppose in a village, we were in fact we were surprised to know, though the cases are active since a couple of days in that village, only some 1 or 2 animals are affected, not other animals. So like we can say that morbidity is like very limited only, and mortality is very marginal. So maximum it is 1 to 5%, and like because when the young ones are infected, if the lesions are more in advanced and respiratory and other intestinal tract are infected, then only there are chances of mortality. Otherwise, if lesions are restricted to the skin and not much of complications, there will be no mortality of this from this particular disease. In some of the like African countries, they have seen HF and crossbreds are more sensitive than to their what we have seen. It is more. It is also there in local breeds of our Karnataka and also crossbreds. Maybe we need to know like further extensive investigations whether HF or any crossbred cattle are more sensitive or more infective when compared to our local breeds. There was an isolated case of disease in camels, and there is one natural case in Saudi Arabia from camels, and experimental inoculation to impala and giraffe. They have seen some LSD like nodules when they experimentally infected, but there is no natural disease, a natural case of this LSD in any of the other wild animals apart from these water buffaloes. And sheep and goats can develop these LSD-like lesions when inoculated intradermally with this virus. But as I was mentioning, there is no classical natural infection in sheep and goat. So animal transmission, I think this will be explained more in detail with by some of my other colleagues, Dr. Chandranayak. So primary route will be biting insects, mosquitoes like culex or Aedes, or biting flies, stomachsis or biomia, and even ticks, Rhipicephalus or amblyoma. So these are all the biting insects and mosquitoes which can mechanically transmit the disease. Maybe you can see the photo below where all these biting flies throng to this one lesion where they pick up the virus and transmit to the other healthy animals. Cutaneous lesions and saliva, nasal discharge, milk, semen, and muscles, they are considered as a minor route of infection through the direct contact. And one more good thing is there is no carrier state. Like if animal gets infected and recovers, the disease will not carry in the animal and it will not be a threat to a source of other animals. So this is one good thing which we have to notice. There is no carrier status, and spread related to the movement of the cattle, which we should take care, because any movement of the infected animal to the other places in the neighboring village, or if other district places or other like panic selling, that should be avoided because it will be a source of infection. See, this source of the virus, this specifically we are interested because like field veterinarians will ask what are the samples which we should collect to send it for the diagnosis and all. So skin nodules, scabs, crusts, they contain relatively high amounts of the virus, and LSDV can be isolated from the blood when in a viremic phase. And I think in a viremic phase, they say like even for 7 to 21 days, the virus can be isolated from the blood, or even in saliva, ocular and nasal discharge. And virus can easily excrete through the semen in the infected bulls, and it may be a source of infection to the like cows when it is inseminated. And shedding of the semen may be prolonged, and LSDV has been isolated from semen nearly 42 days of post-infection. So this is the period so which are virus can easily be seen in the semen. And there has been one report of placental transmission of LSD, which has not been confirmed like vertical transmission of disease from infected mother to the young ones. In the fetus. The LSD does not cause chronic disease, as I told, and does not exhibit latency and reoccurrence of the disease, and does not occur, and there is no carrier state. So clinical disease, the incubation period, as I mentioned, it is 5 days to 5 weeks, inapparent to severe infection. Or other colleague, Chandranayak and Dr. Amita will tell more about this clinical disease. There will be initial fever, decreased milk yield, and raised ocular circular firm nodules, and sometimes they fuse also, and may harden into sit fast and be shed, swollen or tender in udder and testicles, tongue, gum and hard pellets lesions can be seen, and abortions and sterility may occur in these cows and bulls. And sample collection, skin lesions and scabs, saliva, nasal swabs, and blood in viremic stages. These are some of the photos just to highlight the how the lesions will look. Like in the first, we can see this early reddening and reddening patches, and in the late stages, it will become thick nodules, and in advanced stages, the nodules crust formation will be there, and when the crust falls off, that will be depression. The lesions can be seen on the skin, and this damages the skin. This is the one case we can, which recently, just 2 days back, we received from one of our regional officers from Bidar. We can see that generalized elevated nodules throughout the body. This is another animal. This is another local breed only, from Bidar, and this is a crossbred. Maybe we can see slightly bigger nodules when compared to the other local cattle. And this is from Sirsi, Dakshin Kannada, where one of the farmer has sent these photos, and you are surprised to know like what are these lesions. So maybe then later on I explain to him that this is the new disease which is appearing, and we can clearly see these nodules throughout the body. This he has taken a video and sent. Maybe you have heard this. They are just talking about in Kannada, Kunturoga, like lameness, because the lesions are more evident and there will be edema in the legs. So, because the animals will have this limping, that's why they were just explaining it as Kunturoga. And because this is new to them, so we have to give like more of extension to educate all the farmers in that particular area. And these photos, when we went for investigation in Kanakpura, this local breed, we can see these small discrete nodules throughout the body. And especially in this third photo, in fact, I didn't focus that. There is an ulcerative lesion in the leg, in the bottom of the lower portion of the leg, which it was exhibiting even limping also. This photo just I wanted to share with you. It is a Malappuram in Kerala. Like recently there was an outbreak, and we can see these extensive nodules throughout the body. And if these nodules gets infected and the secondary complications occurs, maybe it could lead to the fatality of that particular animal also. And this just I want to share the how these lesions look in other parts of the body, like in the muscles you can see these necrotic lesions, and in the next photo you can see in the testes and on the teats and udder, and this especially when it is involved in the teats and udder, maybe it leads to the secondary mastitis also, and an exotic cough where we can see a severe nodular lesions on the skin and a dried crust of the same nodules. And one animal showing that, as I mentioned in this, because it looks like ulcerative, then when the crust falls, especially in the lower limbs and all, animals start continuously licking. So the wound goes on deepening, and generally it interferes in the healing of the wound. So we can see even mild swelling in the leg also. When the animal is open, we can see the lesions in the trachea and intestines, apart from the nodules in the skins and other mucous membranes, and even in lungs also, and hemorrhages in spleen, liver, and rumen. So that when these internal organs are more involved, especially in young ones, it may lead to the mortality. We can see there in the postmortem when skin is opened, the inside of the skin it looks like perforated this thing. So whole skin is damaged, and we can see the lesions in the even GI tract also. So this is in brief about the disease. So over to Dr. Chandranayak and Amita and Dr. Krishna Reddy to know more about the disease diagnosis and vaccination part and the holistic and the homeopathic approach. Homeopathic treatment is becoming more popular in veterinarians, especially for this LSD. So you can hear more from our colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Byregowda, for an excellent presentation about the disease, where all it has been found, and I am sure the field veterinarians have got a fair idea about the basics of this particular disease. So, in your own amicable style, you have described the disease, and I am very thankful to you.